Hello everybody, my name is Shakes, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to increase your FPS in Overwatch. Now, Overwatch itself is a pretty optimized game, but even then, it looks really nice, even in 2019, so you may have some trouble running it if you don't have the best PC. So today, I'll show you how to make sure you can run it as well as possible, even if your PC isn't that much of a beast. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have Overwatch open, so just open that up, and then I'll show you how to do stuff in this a little bit later, but for now, after you have Overwatch up, just right-click your taskbar, and then go to Task Manager. Now in Task Manager, you're probably going to be able to see Overwatch, so if you see this in the processes, just go to Expand, and then go to Overwatch Application, or whatever still has the Overwatch symbol, right-click that and go to Details. Actually, you could just manually go over and look for Overwatch, but it's a little bit simpler to do it through this way. But once you find it, you're going to see that it takes up a massive amount of memory compared to all the little things in the background of your computer. Once you actually find this, right-click it, go to Set Priority, and change it to High. Real time is a little bit too much. It can mess up other things in your computer, but if you set it to high, your computer is going to prioritize it even more, and will put all your other background processes a little bit more to the side, so your computer can focus more on making Overwatch run better. Just click Change Priority, and you're going to be done with that. Then you can close that Task Manager, and we're going to do the rest of our settings changes in Overwatch itself. Now, other games like TF2, maybe you could download a config or other things like that outside of the game, but Overwatch, the devs really want you to use what's inside of the game. They don't want people having all different kind of graphical settings to give them different effects, because as you know, if you have different graphical settings, things look different, and that can give you a little bit of a gameplay advantage or disadvantage, so they want everything to really be done in Overwatch. So that's why we're going to be doing the rest of the changes inside of the actual game. Just click on Options, make sure you're on video, and this is where we're going to change most of our stuff. Change your borderless window to full screen unless you absolutely need it to be windowed or borderless windowed. But if you have it on full screen, then your computer is going to put most of its processing into the actual game. But if it's in window, then it's going to kind of split it up so you can have that window open and have other processes in the background. In other words, if you have it in full screen, it's going to have the game as more of a priority on your computer. Target display, this doesn't really matter, obviously, especially if you have only one monitor, so let's just forget about that. Resolution, what you can do is turn it down if, you're really having a lot of frame problems. Turning it down, turning the resolution down so there's less pixels on the screen is usually pretty helpful. And yeah, this thing in parentheses is actually the refresh rate. So if you have a 60 Hertz monitor like a lot of people do, then going along with these isn't that bad of an idea. But I'd recommend not really changing your resolution just yet and waiting to apply the rest of the settings to see how the FPS is. And then if it's still bad, then you can turn down your resolution. Field of view, this has a pretty decent effect on your FPS. If you turn it all the way down, then you'll have less things on your screen, and therefore it'll be a little bit of a higher FPS for you. But then again, if you're not able to see as much, you're going to be at a pretty decent gameplay disadvantage, so I'd recommend having it at like 90 or 100 maybe, so you're not really playing at a disadvantage. Aspect ratio, this really just goes hand in hand with your resolution. Just make sure your aspect ratio is relative to what kind of monitor you have. If you have a 16:9 as I do, then you should keep it on that. VSync, just turn this off. Triple buffering, not really that useful. Reduced buffering is pretty useful and can give you some major FPS benefits, like upwards of 20 FPS sometimes, so that's pretty useful. Turn on display performance stats, and then there's two in particular that I would recommend. Show frame rate, obviously, because then you're going to be able to see your frame rate. It's going to be all the way in the top over here. And also I'd recommend turning on show network latency, so you can see your ping and see if you're having a little bit of lag spike, and just to understand if your connection is good or bad at that time. Display system clock, I'd recommend having this on just so you can see what time it is. Limit FPS, I'd recommend putting this on custom and putting it on 300 or wherever you really want to put it. Just make sure you don't have it too low, like 60 or something, because if you do, then it's not really going to allow your computer to use as much of its processing into making the game run as quick as possible. So I just recommend keeping it at 300. Even if you know you won't be able to reach it, it still allows your computer to just try as hard as possible to give you the best FPS possible. However, if you are using a laptop or don't want to use too much of your processing, then you can turn it down a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend putting it near your refresh rate because that can kind of be irritating sometimes. But yeah, if you're like on a laptop or something and you don't want to use too much power, then it's not that bad of an idea to have a frame rate cap. But aside from that, I'd recommend putting it as high as possible. Now for graphics quality, this is probably the biggest change that you can make. This will give you the most FPS. Turning it from epic all the way down to low can give you a massive effect in your FPS. Also, if you click advanced and then you look at all of these and turn everything as low as possible, see this one is, except this one, this is already how it's supposed to be. Don't change this one. Make sure to change texture quality because textures are a big part of this game, so if you turn it down, then it'll help out your FPS. And make sure everything is on low and anti-aliasing is on off. And yeah, this should give you a major effect on your FPS for the better. And make sure these last two are on off, but if it's on low, it's probably already going to be on off, so you don't have to worry too much about that. And yeah, that's pretty much how you do it. Now, as you can see, a restart is required to apply some of these settings. So even if you click apply, it won't truly be applied into your game. Like if I clicked back and then I hopped into a match, it wouldn't really do much because my settings aren't changed until I restart. So just make sure before jumping into a game, you restart and then go back into the game, and then you'll be able to actually test out how your FPS is doing. As you can see, my FPS counter is up here. It's locked at 60 because we're in a menu, but when it actually gets into game, it's going to be whatever we set it at, which was, it was here, frame rate cap, 300. So in game, it can go all the way up to 300, but probably won't because I don't have an insane PC. But making all these changes will definitely bring it much closer. Before and after for me, when I applied these settings myself, I have an average of like 90 on Epic with all these settings turned up, and when I turn it to low and do all the settings that I've shown you in this video, then it's about 220. So in reality, for me, it gives me more than double the FPS I had previous, which if you think about it is a pretty massive boost. Now I'll just show you a little bit of a before and after for the player model. As you can see, this is the before, none of the settings have changed. Looks pretty nice. Looks very detailed, all of it, so I'm going to exit the game, restart it, and then we'll have our settings applied, and you'll see how it looks afterwards. Now, as you can see, the textures don't look quite as nice, it doesn't look quite as beautiful, but this will give you a massive change, and obviously, as you can see, it doesn't look that much worse. Most of these details you won't even realize in the middle of gameplay, so all you're getting is really a massive FPS boost with a little bit of a downgrade in quality. So yeah, that's pretty much how you do it. Thank you guys all so much for watching. It means a lot that you checked out my video. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, bell, bongos, whatever you're supposed to say. And yeah, hope to see you in the next one. Peace.